Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 10, Episode 45. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being with us this Wednesday, Steelers Nation. Dave, how you doing? We have a lot to talk about today.
We sure do, and I went down a Roethlisberger wormhole.
Oh, no. All right, let me get a pot of coffee on here.
Yeah, you don't even drink coffee. So
no, only whenever I hear you've gone down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, I went down one. I didn't surface until I compiled a lot of data, so it should be fun to kind of talk about quarterback play and that kind of stuff. And obviously we're going to review, go over some things from the All-22 from the game Thursday night and a lot more.
But let's begin with the flurry of roster moves this team's making. It feels more like a Week 17 team out of the playoff race scenario with all the roster moves being made, but with the injuries this team's experiencing and just everything that goes along with kind of being a team with a lot of guys on the injury report. Steelers have made a ton of roster moves, so let's get to what those are. We'll do it in chronological order. 2 days ago, the Steelers signed Quadri Henderson and Amara Darba to the practice squad. Both receivers, released receiver Terry Wright and Sutton Smith from the practice squad. Later that day, they signed back Ralph Webb, the running back, to the practice squad. He was with the team in training camp. And then, of course, the big move happened yesterday. The fan favorite outside linebacker Tuzar Skipper signed to the 53-man roster off the Giants practice squad, and LT Walton goes to IR with a knee injury. So a lot of roster moves there. Skipper, the only one to the 53-man roster. He finally comes back, and I know you talked about that really after Skipper got claimed initially and said sometimes those guys find their way back to Pittsburgh, and that's what Skipper did.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to see him finally circle back there. One would think that I don't know, with a Daney and dealing with that concussion from the other night and all, and I'm not overly surprised. Said way back when it happened that sometimes you can't overreact to some of these things, and obviously it's not like he left on his own doing. He was exposed to waivers. The Giants picked him up, and of course he lasted I don't know how many weeks, 7 or 8 weeks or so, I guess, with them, and then obviously the Steelers didn't go after him after they had waived him. He made it back to the Giants practice squad, and injuries happen along the way, and it's the ability to get a guy that you already have a little bit of comfort in, who obviously played well for you during the preseason. It's not that shocking of a move at all. But I got to tell you, within one calendar week here, we have 3 guys signed off the practice squads of other teams. I don't know if I remember that happening in a single season, let alone a single week for the Steelers. I'll have to go back through at some point and go down that rabbit hole to see if I can find out, find a time where maybe they signed that many guys in one season off the practice squads from another team. It might be the last time that they were out of eliminated early, kind of like you teased it at the opening there. But certainly a rarity, and unfortunately a lot of it comes as a result of injuries on this team.
I'm certainly happy to see Skipper return, as I'm sure the entire Steelers fan base is. It's just weird circumstances because they've had so many chances to bring him back, whether that was, when the Giants released him and they could have claimed him, which they did not. And at that moment, that was when Chickalo was arrested. The outside linebacker depth was looking really thin. Still, the team opted against it. I guess that means that they just weren't happy with Jay Elliott's play because they released him earlier this week, and obviously they could have re-signed them back if they wanted to today or yesterday, and they didn't. So maybe that just means that they just didn't like the level of play and wanted to go in a new direction with a younger player.
Yeah, possibly. And as far as moves previously, injuries or whatnot, you just don't know exactly what they're looking for at the time as far as needs go. But yeah, it was a little bit curious. If they got him now, why didn't they get him a couple of weeks ago?
Right, but I don't spend a whole lot of time thinking about that. Skipper could be the number 3 outside linebacker this week with a Daney in protocol. I'm not sure on Chicolo's status. Did Tomlin mention Chick yesterday in terms of the injury? I don't remember him saying his name.
No, and I don't remember writing that up either. So, he was limited that last day, and then ended up, I think, ending the week as questionable. And then they had what was it, a Wednesday or no, it was the day of roster move that they signed J-Ron Elliott back there. So maybe Chicolo took a kind of a late turn in the wrong direction there after being limited on that Wednesday or whatnot. Who knows really? But this is where we are now.
Yep, and Chicolo with that rib injury, so we'll kind of get a gauge on his practice participation. But if he can't go, then Skipper will certainly be number 3, assuming Adeyemi doesn't get cleared in time for Sunday's game. With the other guys, I want to touch on them really quickly. Again, Ralph Webb, bigger back, did well in training camp, got hurt about 2 weeks in, I think, in the Latrobe, and was put on IR and then released with an injury settlement, so he's circling back to Pittsburgh. And then Henderson was in camp last year, a local guy, Pitt guy, small return guy, capable. Tomlin was asked about could he be in the mix to do returns, and Tomlin said the obvious, he's on the practice squad, not in the mix right now. Darboh was a third-round pick of the Seahawks, really busted out in Seattle pretty quickly, but a bigger body that had a really good career in college, and maybe they try to find a new home in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I guess the only thing maybe to potentially watch here at the end of the week is, come Saturday, if one of these wide receivers are promoted, off the practice squad to the 53. I mean, you look at, I guess that's where you're going next with the injury report here is, we'll have to see what the status is of course, their 2 top wide receivers in Juju Smith-Schuster and Deontay Johnson, and if one of those guys can go, you'll probably be okay. But if neither of them can, you're probably going to have to promote somebody up. And being as how Quadre gives you, potentially something in the return department, along with another guy that you've got on your roster right now who's new in Kareth White. Maybe that's the move that gets made on Saturday. But we got a couple of days of injury reports to get through before we get that far.
Well, let's get into the injury report, Dave, because it is a fairly lengthy list. Walton on IR. Tomlin had already ruled him out for this week with a knee injury. He's going to have surgery, so Walton does not get activated, does not appear in a game. Obviously hurt in practice at some point, so his season ends before it really ever began. But run through the rest of the injury report for us.
Yeah, and are you surprised that they didn't bring? They usually like to carry 6 defensive linemen.
Mm-hmm. They always do.
On the 53, very few occasions or very few weeks over the years do I remember them only, going into a game with 5. But thankfully, those 5 are seemingly healthy right now. So I suppose that, gives them kind of the luxury to do that. But outside linebacker Ola Adeyemi, Deontay Johnson, and Juju Smith-Schuster all suffered concussions at different points during the Steelers' Thursday night road loss to the Browns. They're still in protocol according to Mike Tomlin. So, we'll have to see what the week holds for those guys. Juju Smith-Schuster, on top of that, has a knee injury he suffered on that same play that he suffered the concussion. Apparently, he was spotted in a picture at one of his foundation events there over the weekend wearing a kind of looked like a bulky knee brace on, I think it was his left knee there. So, I don't know how optimistic you are about that. And, the way Deontay Johnson left the field, the other day after suffering his concussion, you just the way this team has handled concussions, at least most recently, and looking at the players that they've signed, a flurry of moves that they've made and the positions they've made it at, it would lead you to believe that it doesn't look good early on for those 3 guys. Talking about Adeyemi, Deontay Johnson, and Juju Smith-Schuster. Of course, all that can change in a hurry. Mike Tomlin talked about James Conner. He doesn't know what his availability might be this week, and really practice availability and functionality will be the guide in terms of his participation. I tell you what, Alex, to listen to Mike Tomlin talk or James Conner talk on his radio show the other night, it really doesn't sound positive at all when it comes to him.
Yeah, he's not going to play. The comments he's made, players are always the most optimistic about that stuff. If he thought he was going to play, he would have really intimated that and would have said, I think I'm going to be able to give it a go, or at least I like my odds this week. He didn't say that at all. I don't have his exact quote up right now, but he basically just said, he'll come back whenever he feels like he's 100% ready to go, and that's not going to be this Sunday against the Bengals.
Yeah, I think, look, I'll be surprised if he makes it back for the Browns game, to be quite honest with you, because he kept saying, the element of time being huge in there, and how he essentially rushed back for this game Thursday against the Browns. He's got to be able to use that thing, to protect himself when he falls to the ground, to pass protect, and all that. And it was clear right from the get-go in that game against the Browns the other night that shoulder was bothering him. It's surprising he lasted the full quarter there, but on that last touch of his late in the first quarter, that was just too much from a pain tolerance level for him there. So I'll be shocked if he makes it back for the Browns game as well. So we'll just have to keep our fingers crossed there. And look, I mean, you want him back healthy, and hopefully you can win a couple ball games in the meantime without him. Cornerback Artie Burns left that game the other night with a knee injury. Doesn't sound like Mike Tomlin's too terribly concerned about him, but once again, we'll have to see. You mentioned L.T. Walton having a meniscus repair. He's on IR now, and a little bit of positive news on Benny Snell, and we talked about him, a few days ago. Boy, this team could really use some Benny Snell football back in it pronto, especially with James Conner ailing. So it looks like he's on course to return against the Bengals. Now, obviously, if he does, one wouldn't think he'd get the full running load, but him and Jalen Samuels combined, that might be a little something there to look forward to. I mean, this running game, we'll talk about that here in a little bit. It's been, I don't know what's a proper adjective to use. Atrocious.
All of them apply.
To that. So keep your fingers crossed on Benny Snell Jr. And I think that's got it. Unfortunately, I think our look ahead the other day was right on the money, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. And even if Adene and Deontay Johnson, if they were to be cleared late in the week in concussion protocol, being young guys, it's hard to see them really having a hat if they're not going to get to practice really at all until late in the week. So even if they get cleared, let's say on a Saturday, I still doubt they're going to play for Sunday.
Yeah, so recap for me the healthy wide receivers on the 53 right now.
Oh, that is a short list. James Washington, Johnny Holton, Deion Kane. Am I missing anyone? Is that the list?
You got let's see, James Washington, Deion Kane, Holton. Feels like we're missing somebody in there.
With all the moves that they've made, because Juju and Deontay Johnson, that's it. That's the 5 right now, right?
Oh God, boy, still.
Oh, Tevin Jones.
Oh, okay,
Tevin
yeah,
Jones.
I knew we were missing someone in there.
Yep. So those are your 4 healthy guys. And then Juju and Deontay Johnson. Juju, we'll see. It really feels to me totally up in the air. And Deontay Johnson, I'd be kind of surprised if he did play Sunday.
Yeah, so, I mean, are we going to see a Saturday move?
They had – how many receivers did they have on the roster last week when they brought up Tevin Jones? Was that it was the 5th receiver?
Tevin was the 5th, right?
Yeah.
Because so they moved Switzer to IR.
Yeah, so they wanted 5 healthy receivers in that game. So
they have 4 right now.
So if Juju nor Deontay Johnson are able to play, then I would expect a roster move. If one of those guys plays, probably Juju, then I think they're going to stand pat.
And you would think Juju would potentially have the best case or best chance, but that if he didn't have that knee injury, he's got double whammy there.
Mm-hmm.
Right now on him. So just keep your fingers crossed on that. That's for sure.
And I only lean Juju because he doesn't need as much practice time as a guy like Deontay Johnson would as a rookie.
Right.
So we'll see going forward. All right, Dave. Mike Tomlin had his press conference on Tuesday. What did he say that stuck out to you? Just again talked about the whole incident at the end of the Browns game. Didn't have a whole lot to comment on. Says there's really nothing to learn from it. Just they didn't have control over that situation. A comment that didn't sit well with Browns fans, I'm sure, but I'm fine with everything he said regarding the fight and not getting into it too much, but just saying you just kind of move on from it and focus on all the problems you had prior to that point in the game.
Yeah, he says their problems run a lot deeper than what happened late in that game, right?
Yeah, that's understatement of the
year. And that is indeed the case there. And yeah, I thought he handled it, right from you could tell there's he's biting his tongue on a lot of things, right?
Mm-hmm. Which is the smart approach.
Right, and so I mean, look, Marquise Pouncey was supposed to have his appeal. I think 4:30 yesterday. I don't think we've seen or heard anything about that. And as far as roster moves go, you would expect Pouncey to go to the reserve suspended list and Patrick Moore's to come up. I don't know, maybe as early today, right?
Yeah, once the appeal gets heard and the final decision gets made, then I'm sure the team will make a move.
All right. What else stuck out? About look. He talked about Benny Snell and what he needs to show first. He says health first and foremost. He has to be able to protect himself. Secondarily, to protect himself, he has to be able to protect the football. He's capable of doing those things, and barring something unforeseen happening, some sort of setback, I would expect Benny Snell, as long as he practices all 3 days this week, to dress and play in some capacity, and maybe even help out on some special teams there.
And they need him in the worst way for the run game that's non-existent right now. Snell is the best runner on this team that's healthy, sans James Conner, and he's also probably the best pass protector on this team, sans James Conner, which is a crazy thing to say about a rookie, but Edmonds and Samuels are just terrible at it, and Snell's honestly the best guy back there.
Boy, if there's one thing that stuck out on that tape, the all-22 from the other game is the pass protection between Samuels and Edmonds, and really not only just that game, but going back the last few games there, Edmonds doesn't attack the grass in front of him, and Samuel sometimes just doesn't know where to go. And late getting over sometimes, and all when he is there, not the best. And look, what was one of the things we highlighted immediately after he was drafted was pass pro being kind of concerned with Samuels, because he just wasn't asked to do that too terribly much at North Carolina State.
Right. It says a lot that in late game situations, 2-minute drills with Trey Edmonds is in the backfield instead of Samuels, your supposed receiving back, just because of the lack of pass protection, they're forcing them to put Edmonds back there because they just don't trust Samuels to do it.
And then that limits you with stuff you can do out of the backfield, and really as a runner, I mean, he's just a guy, He's a practice squad running back. I mean, he is a special teams player first and foremost, and whatever else you get out of him, you get.
You're referring to Edmonds, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. No, I'm with you. A decent size, but that's about it. The one thing that Tomlin did say that stuck out to me, because there wasn't a whole lot in yesterday's press conference, but I wrote the article on Monday about the short yardage failures and why this team's been so bad in 3rd and 4th and 1, dead last in football on a potential record low in the Mike Tomlin tenure. And I didn't make the connection until I went through Tomlin's comments, but their 2 worst games this year, the Patriots in Week 1 and Cleveland Thursday, were both on the road. And Tomlin, I thought, made an interesting comment to kind of refer to that, saying, quote, taking into account all circumstances, environment being one of them, we'll be in another hostile environment. A cadence will not be a weapon for us in those circumstances, and it may dictate how we attack or don't attack in those circumstances. And that is a good point. Not that you want to excuse lack of a cadence for the short yardage trailers. It does not excuse it, but I do think having the inability to use a cadence in those short yard situations, and then just a young quarterback who probably doesn't use a cadence as effectively overall as, say, a Big Ben, probably hurts that team a lot in some of those short area moments.
Yeah, not only that, the blocking and sometimes the play calls.
Sure. Yeah, cadence is lower on the list of issues, but I do think it's an element that's worth pointing out, especially when you see their 2 worst games in short yard situations this year, both being on the road.
And what do you have them in short yardage situations now for the season, Alex?
Well, which in terms of 1 yard to go or 3rd and short?
I 3rd and 4th and 3 or less yards, I guess.
Well, on 3rd and 3 and closer, they're 28.7%, which I believe is dead last in football.
Yeah, that's got to be. That's miserable.
Yeah, and on 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 4th and 1, they're 25%, 4 of 16, which is dead last in football. Carolina is actually dangerously close to being as bad as them, but still not as bad as the Steelers.
Boy, you just wonder if you pick up, you'd have to pick out the perfect situation there, but if they convert a handful of those, if it's enough to change the tide of one game.
Well, it could have changed last week. You had a lot, you had the back-to-back plays in the fourth quarter against the Browns where it was 14-7, and you had third and fourth and one on the Browns 30-something, 32-yard line. That was the play where Rudolph missed Holton over the middle of the field on fourth down. You convert either of those plays. I think the third down was the end zone shot play to Holton that just kind of clipped off his hands, dove out for it. If you make either of those plays, you could have a tie ball game. Maybe the Steelers somehow eke out a victory in that one, but we'll never know.
Boy, you got to have that play too, right?
Which one, the third or the fourth, or both?
Yeah, both. But yes, but the deep one down the left side to Holton. I mean, you get the look that you want. You get the cover, what looked like cover one man there. You get the the backside singled up in a fast guy like Holton, and he's had his chances now. I'm all up for trying to get as many of his snaps to Deion Kane. Just pull that he doesn't Deion Kane doesn't need a route tree. He just needs a route branch.
Let's go straight, young man.
Yeah, a stick. It's time to look at somebody else. Start eating in. Obviously, that's probably not going to happen to a large degree right out of the chute here. But it's time to see if somebody else can take advantage of winning some of those balls deep. Now, yeah, Holton did get kind of knocked off his route there, but good NFL receivers on 53-man rosters that want to stick around a while will find a way to get to that football.
Yep, he's had his chances. He's got one catch on 13 targets. That's historically bad. You move on, you find someone else who can try to do it. I mean, at worst, you get the same results. Hopefully, you get something better.
Mike Tomlin was asked about how much of an impact does he think Deion Kane and Kareth White Jr. can have for him. He says he has no idea right now. How quickly they learn, the level of detail, yada yada. That is why they hear. They like those guys in the elements of the evaluation process. But being with them day to day, instructing them, seeing how quickly they can learn and get on the moving train and add the type of execution and play speed and detail will be the determining factor in terms of their roles. Obviously, I don't think we expect to see Kareth White Jr. in the backfield any, at least I hope not. I don't know, maybe get him a carry or two, perhaps, but not looking for too much of that in this first game, Sunday against the Bengals. However, as we just mentioned with Deion Kane, man, I think you got to try to get that guy, especially if Juju and Deontay don't play. I think you got to try to get Deion Kane on the field. I don't know, 10, 12 snaps or so?
Yeah, you really probably don't have much of a choice if you don't have Juju or Deontay Johnson. So, yeah, you probably play Kane, 10, 15 snaps, get him in there for some base install stuff. And as you said, if he's going to be that vertical threat, you can probably get him in that, phase of the playbook pretty quickly. That's pretty natural to him going vertical. So I think you can get him in there for 10, 15 snaps without much of an issue.
What have you observed on him on film? I just see a guy more, straight line, not an overly, not a great route runner or not really a well-rounded route runner, I guess would say. He's got some drops in his history, not only, in the short time with the Colts, but with at Clemson as well too. But he made some plays there in college, and that's what you're looking for here, someone who can provide you with an explosive play.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'll just wait for him to come to Pittsburgh and really get a chance because you're going to be able to watch him over the next 6 weeks and see what he can do. But if he can provide any sort of spark, any sort of vertical threat, I'm all for it because this offense desperately needs one.
What did you think about Tomlin's answer to what is the benefit of bringing in practice squad players versus veteran players off of the street? And no names were named, but the media were talking about Dez Bryant, Terrell Pryor, and let's say Jay Ajayi.
Yeah, it's what we talked about on Monday. That you need guys who are physically ready, that they can come in right away, that they've been through a training camp, they've been on a roster, on a 53-man roster. I think both guys might have been on a roster at some point this year. Kane, definitely. Guys that have been on practice squad and on a practice field and just out there working every single day. Guys that can come in right away. That you don't have to give them time to get physically good shape and still learn the playbook and all that stuff. So that makes perfect sense to me.
Do you have any issues with those moves?
No, I mean, in terms of bringing in a receiver, no, your receiver, core is depleted. You need someone that can try to win vertical. Tevin Jones, you're not going to win many games with Tevin Jones, Johnny Holton leading your snap count. And then Kareth White, I'm fine with that. He's got big speed and, a guy that might help this kick return team, though. as I read about this morning, the kick return issues go much deeper because they just can't block to save their lives.
I understand the names of Des Bryant and Terrell Pryor and people having their heartstrings tugged at with the Pryor, lack of a better word, and I don't think there is one, begging on social media to be signed by the Steelers. Look, those guys aren't going to help you immensely more than what these other young guys I don't think are going to help you, So why not go with the younger players here in that instance, as Tomlin said, guys that have already been, that are in the moment, from the physical standpoint, and those guys have a little bit of upside. If they didn't, they wouldn't be. They wouldn't have been signed. So I have no issue with it. I know it goes against the grain of what a lot of the fan base wants to do, but I think you're looking at this as an evaluation process on top of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as you said, maybe you find one of these guys long term that says, "Hey, this guy's got some talent." You bring him to camp next year. I know this isn't an exact 1-to-1 comparison, but Mike Hilton was. People think Mike Hilton was a training camp star, which he was. But remember, he came in about December the year prior to his training camp in Pittsburgh and signed to the practice squad, and they liked what he did, signed to a futures contract, and carried him through. So maybe you find someone that shows a little talent, and you give him a futures contract after this season, and maybe he pops in camp, and you have an asset going forward. So not only do you have a guy that's physically ready to contribute right now, as in Kane and White and those guys, you have a potential for some long-term value too if one of those guys shows some talent and does well in Pittsburgh.
What did you think about? I understand where the media member was trying to go with the question. I just didn't think it was phrased properly. They're talking about Vince Young and Tim Tebow and Johnny Manziel. They were all Heisman. Anyway, the crux of the question, if you will, was does Mason Rudolph have a skill set that makes him more than those former Heisman winning quarterbacks to have a successful NFL career? Either with the Steelers or elsewhere in the NFL. And Tomlin seemed to be a little bit shocked at the phrasing of that question as well.
I really don't know what the point was. I don't know if that was just saying, do you see any similarities between big-time college quarterbacks? I don't know if he was talking about mobility, so I really didn't even understand what the point of the question was, and I'm not sure Tomlin did either.
Yeah, and, I kind of, I don't know exactly which way he was going with it, but, Tomlin gave kind of an answer that you'd expect to a question that he wasn't sure what the direction was going on in it. What else stuck out to you that Tomlin had to say?
That was about it for me. Talking about the pass interference rule, which I'm kind of getting tired of talking about, but he was just kind of explaining how initially the league had the intent of the new PI challenge rule for only the most egregious plays that Tomlin said would damage the credibility of the NFL. Then the bar kind of moved to being open to challenging more.
When did that bar move?
Yeah, good question. But Tomlin saying that the bar kind of moved, and now teams were trying to challenge more questionable and borderline plays, and the bar moved back again to its original intent, which was the only for the egregious plays that would damage the credibility of the league. So I don't know. Tomlin basically said, though, so we're just going to stop trying to challenge it.
Yeah, I got an idea when that bar moved in that game against Seattle. That's when that bar moved.
Yeah, right, the Terrell Edmonds PI.
And then it moved back. What did you think about the? Obviously, you've seen it, 100 times already to play in the Ravens Texans game.
Yeah, to me that's PI. But if Tomlin's telling the truth about where the bar is, I guess the NFL is only going to change it if it's the most egregious call in the world. Though I think that one kind of qualified.
Yeah, and even that one didn't get overturned there. So, I'm with them at this point. Why, unless you're way up on the scoreboard or something like that, or total desperation move, I can't see a reason in challenging some of these moving forward.
Yep, and I think that's basically what Tomlin said. We're not going to challenge it unless it's the most obvious call in the world, or as you said, if there's just some desperation where it doesn't hurt you to try.
Okay, it was asked about Deontay Johnson on punt returns if he's available on Sunday. He says we'll let availability be the determining factor in that. He also mentioned that Quadre Henderson, as you mentioned, is a P squatter. That sounds something that you'd buy late at night on late night television. A P squatter. That's not funny to you then, huh?
No, I'm just waiting for you to move on.
All right. What else do we? I guess that's about it. That's significant.
Yeah, let's move on to the All-22 because it has come out since the last time we spoke, Dave. What are your initial impressions? Anything that stuck out to you? Maybe your evaluation of Rudolph or anything? I mean, there's a lot of ugly in this game, so anything that really kind of stuck out to you above the rest?
There was a lot of ugly, and it's uglier in the All-22 than it is in the TV tape. I mean, I don't know where you want to start. I mean, I guess we'll start with the obvious with Mason Rudolph there. He's got to start seeing things quicker first and foremost, and especially in the middle of the field. I think he's got to do a better job of sensing and feeling the pressure, and then things we've talked about before. With the maneuverability in the pocket. On top of that, he just he is he's trying to function as a pocket quarterback, which there's nothing wrong with that, but if he's not, and he never, he made some plays with extending plays at Oklahoma State, although his tape at Oklahoma State was not littered with such. He did make the occasional, oh wow, escape that, go out to either side, and then make a big play off of that. Once again, it's not something that you mark down. Oh, he's an extended play type quarterback type thing. So if he's not going to be that, which he's not, you wouldn't expect him to. At least I wouldn't expect him to all of a sudden become that at this stage of his career now. If you're going to be a pocket quarterback, you have to go almost the Tom Brady route here. You have to know where your guys are going to be on the field. You got to make decisions quickly, and you have to know how to sense the pressure and move around up and sideways inside the pocket. And until he's able to show that, there's going to be questions, about what he is long term. But I think the most glaring thing was his decision making and pulling the trigger on not throws way down the field, but stuff 10, 12, 5, 7, 12, 10 yards down the field, and usually right between inside the numbers. So I think that's the thing. That look, I think it's forgivable, the interception where he just didn't see Joe Schobert to some degree. He just didn't see him, and Schobert did a great job of gaining depth in there on that. I think that's kind of forgivable. I think the interception on the flea flicker outside of the ball needing to be placed more on the outside is a bit forgivable, something that maybe you can get better at time with. The other two interceptions, though, the throw behind Tevin Jones, I mean, that's there for him, If that ball's on the money, hits Tevin Jones in stride, you're probably not even talking about the play any, even though it would have been a fairly decent gain on that play. And then the other one, was it the last one that he sailed it over McDonald, or the second to last one? I don't know. But the one on that one, you can see McDonald about, 7 yards, I guess. He's going up the seam. He turns looking for that ball, and that defensive back has got his hips turned to the sideline on there. That's a perfect opportunity to drill that thing right to McDonald at that very point. He had a great line of sight on that. You get that ball out quick right there, and McDonald runs a little bit maybe with it up the middle of the field. He waited. McDonald keeps kind of running, up and over there. He sails it over his head, and it's a too late throw. And then obviously with it being too high, that's picked off as well too. So I think those, and the other one, it's hard. I don't know if by looking at the All-22, if you take the drop away from Juju, it's obviously one that you would hope that your receiver comes down with, but the early RPO there with them coming at you at the end zone view, if he gets that ball out a little less hot and not so high, Juju catches that, he's running for a good while on that one.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Now, you just got to make that catch, in my opinion.
Sure, but it was a little hot and a little high.
Yeah, always the number one receiver. You got to
sure.
catches that are a little hot, a little high.
And once again, I find that less egregious, but it's just one of those things. If that's on the money and in stride, Juju's running.
Yeah. I thought it was actually a little better than what I anticipated, especially in the first half. That first half was not terrible, which is kind of a low bar to set, I know, but I thought his first half was actually decent, and I thought his eyes were better, maybe honestly better this week. Well, I shouldn't say that. It was better than what I expected this week, coming off what the box score looked like. Some of his progressions were better, because you got to have good eyes to be a quarterback. I don't care about your arm strength or your technique or anything. If you don't have good eyes, you can't win in the NFL. I thought his progressions were a little bit better. There were obviously a lot of accuracy issues and pocket mobility issues and things like that. But that first half wasn't bad. It just kind of snowballed him in the second half with bad play after bad play, and he kind of couldn't right the ship enough. Though I did think after one of the interceptions, I don't remember which one it was, he did bounce back on the next drive with a really nice throw to James Washington that picked up 22. So there was some response. I did see some small improvement in some isolated things. I point out the Hank concept last week and how he just was abysmal with his read on it. They ran the same Hank concept early this week. He actually made the right read and went through his progressions the right way, so I was happy to see that. So there's some very small things, but noticeable improvements nonetheless. It just, that second half got really, really ugly, and I don't know if that's a total coincidence either, because that's when, without James Conner, without Deontay Johnson, without Juju playing from behind, there were a lot of those factors started to come in that made things really, really tough on Rudolph.
How much? Look, I mean, his receivers have got to make some plays too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, would that have changed some of the interceptions that he had? No. I mean, you can't throw behind a Tevin Jones coming across the middle. The ball on the flea flicker, if he puts that a little bit on the outside, that's there. But I mean, we talked about the Juju RPO, and it really would be nice to see if you had a crystal ball to see how far Juju runs on that one. Because if he hits that, he's going to run a great deal on that. The one, kind of deep down the middle of the field, one that, Rudolph probably could have got out a little bit further. But even so, that's a play that NFL wide receivers have got to go up and make on those 50-50 balls. Holton didn't make that one. He didn't make that one against the cover one down the left sideline in the end zone. The one that Deontay was injured on, that's, to me, that's a kind of a catchable ball there, so his receivers didn't help. Here's where I'm going with this. How much did him losing, his top two receivers in the game and then having a practice, the rest practice squatters on the field affect the overall, timing and the understanding where the player is going to be kind of element there. And also, how much is not having a running game, especially on 1st and 10 situations, hurting, hindering him?
I mean, they're both pretty significant factors. It's not going to excuse all of Rudolph's mistakes, but yeah, when you're throwing to Tevin Jones, a guy you probably haven't thrown many passes to, at least not since August, it's going to screw up with the timing and the feel of it. So I understand that element of it. And as I said, that first half wasn't bad. It was the second half that was especially terrible. And I don't know if that's a total coincidence either, because you were playing with your skeleton crew for that entire second half.
I think it goes back to things we've said really, right from the get-go with him, at least with me. He's just got to make the quicker decisions and get that ball out. In certain instances, especially middle of field, especially 4th and whatever it was, like on the Johnny Holton. You got to know who's likely to be the guy, coming across for you in those situations. It's got to be a react, don't think type of situation. They really needed that play, that particular play there, and that probably could have flipped, flip the game a little bit there. I mean, because he's running a little bit on that too if he catches that in stride. And of course, you could say as Johnny Holton, there's no guarantee that's going to happen. Well, at least if he puts it there, then we're talking about, oh man, Johnny Holton didn't help out his quarterback on that one.
Right, and Rudolph ultimately did throw it to Holton, so throw it to him when he's wide open and you have a clean pocket. Then when you're getting taken to the ground, you throw it in the back of the defensive Browns player. But But yeah, that was his worst play by far. I still don't know what his eyes were doing on that play because his first read, Samuelson the left flat, that's taken away. Second read was, I think, Juju. He's bracketed, he's doubled. Holton's wide open. It's part of his progression. He should be able to see out of the corner of his eye. I don't know how he didn't. And then he did see him as he's getting taken to the ground. But that goes back to what I said and what I wrote Monday, and I still stand by it after reviewing the All-22, is that he was looking for a clean pocket. He's trying to throw from a fundamentally sound base and everything that's really technical. But sometimes in the NFL you can't do that. You got to throw from an off-platform, messy pocket kind of throw. He slides into pressure again, which has become a recurring theme for him, and you just can't have that. So that was, to me, even worse than the interceptions he threw was that miss on 4th and 1.
And look, obviously not the best pass protection in this game either.
Now, a lot of issues with stunt pickup. It got better as the game went on, but Steelers are normally one of the best teams in football in picking up stunts and passing things off and communicating well. First half was a big struggle in that regard.
What did you think about the other, what was it, the 3rd and short or 4th and short, where they tried to leak Vinette out?
Vinette? McDonald? The 4th and 1 throwback to McDonald?
Right. Was that McDonald or Vinette coming across?
That was McDonald.
Okay. I mean, you're only giving the quarterback really one option on that play, right?
Yeah, there were only two. At first, I thought you had the flat, like the first was going to be the flat to Edmonds, but I realized no, that wasn't an option. That was all a fake the whole way. So the only two options you had was McDonald on that throwback, and Holton ran a deep post to the far side of the field. I know what you're trying to do because you ran that rollout last week and you hit Edmonds in the flat, so you thought everyone would bite, thinking it was going to be the same play, and you could get McDonald wide open backside, but that was just a bad play call. I don't know what the idea was there.
Yeah, I don't either. And not only that, you don't block it up.
Yeah, there was pressure. McDonald was covered. It was well defended by Cleveland. You're asking your quarterback to make that kind of far side across the field throw, rolling to his right on 4th and 1. I'm fine with going for it there. I'm fine with passing the football there. I'm not fine with that particular play call.
Right. That's what I'm getting at. I'm fine with the decision there. I'm not a fan. Do you think that was, by any chance, was that a 2-point play? Do you think?
Well, if it was, I hope they take it out. That's a pretty bad one. But no, I think they were just trying to run a play off of the rollout that they ran to the flat last week, and they just tried to have a play come off of that, and it just didn't work.
And it was, I mean, even if it's blocked up, the Browns defended that perfectly.
Yeah, they saw it the whole way.
So I mean, that was going to be a failed play, regardless in that situation. Man, we've talked about it a few times already, and they just got to get this running game going, and they're not going to get it, I don't think, out of heavy personnel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look at the charting. I'm still waiting for Matthew to send over the charting, but I do want to look at the numbers when they're in heavy personnel versus 11 personnel, and just to try to get an idea. I found one issue with there's a lot of issues with the run game, but I found one in particular. Did you see anything, or do you want me to kind of talk about the issue that I picked up on?
Well, I think spacing more than anything. I don't know if that's where you're going. Was one of them, but go ahead.
Well, no, I think spacing is an issue, but what I saw was just, and it's simplistic, but it's a big one, is that linemen can't get to the second level. These linebackers are working clean, they're not getting covered up, and these first level blocks are having a really tough time with whoever it is, the center, the guard, the tackle, being able to work off of that and climb and engage at the second level. You're just seeing Schobert run free too many times. You're seeing these linebackers run free too many times. So you got to secure that first level block. They got to do a better job of that initially to be able to allow someone to climb to the second level and work to a linebacker. They're getting stuck on that first level block because they can't secure it because these guys are one gapping. It's creating penetration. They're trying to seal it down first and take care of it, which you have to do, but you got to take care of it quickly so someone can release and climb and work to the second level. And these linebackers are running free time and time again. And I don't care what running back you have. I don't care what the scheme is. Linebackers that are running free, they're going to make plays all day.
Well, that Schobert had a hell of a game, did he?
Yeah, he's a great linebacker, but it wasn't just him. I mean, there was other linebackers whose name escapes me right now. Maybe Cameron Smith. Is that a guy? Anyway, they just linebackers running free. I don't care if you're a Joe Schobert or Luke Kuechly kind of guy, or if you're a Mark Barron kind of guy. If you're free and you're unblocked, you're gonna make the play.
They're going to have to do something to create running lanes here. I don't know if that means more outside zone, which is really, this team's never been a heavy outside zone team anyway. They've more have been kind of a combination inside zone type power team. And Edmonds is not a guy that's going to give you kind of that one cut action. Samuels is just not an every down running back. With James Conner out, Benny Snell Jr. is probably going to be your best option, and even he's not going to get 20-something carries in a game. So you're going to have to try to play to the strengths of some of these other running backs, and really with Edmonds, I don't know what that is.
And Samuel's strengths are
just you got to have to get the football with him out in space, and then just kind of he's not going to be a guy that's going to kind of win the edge for you.
Yeah, so I don't know about trying to get him in space in the passing game, I guess.
Well, maybe he can function more, in some outside zone and picking a lane and going and cutting it up.
For me, I wouldn't even do that because his vision is terrible. I don't trust him to make the right decisions. I think he's got to function in a gap man scheme where he's just following his blocks and getting downhill. I think you put him in zone schemes, he's going to fail because he can't read a hole.
Well, then you better block it up.
Yeah, no, I think blocking is certainly a big issue. I'm going to do probably a film room video on this for tomorrow, for Thursday, on some of these second-level failed blocks, because I think that has been a big issue. Because, again, linebackers run free. I don't care what your scheme is. I don't care who your running back is. You can have James Conner back there. You're not going to go far. Line's got to do a better job being able to secure that first-level block and climb and get to the second level.
It's got to be 4 yards or bust on first down, no matter how you want to map this thing out. Obviously, you can't come out and run every 1st and 10 play, and God forbid you get behind the chains with a false start or something, or a hold call on 1st and 10. You might as well just hang that drive up, because you just cannot continually beat your head up against the wall with these 3-yard, 2-yard TFLs, kind of thing, because you get in second and long situations, and then if Randy decides, he wants to kind of run again. Look, I think you've got to go back and sound a little bit like a broken record on this. I think you got to put some more elements of some RPO back in this thing, and maybe move it up the tempo a little bit, with Mason, make these reads a little bit easier, because I tell you what, if I'm the Bengals right now, again this week, and they're shorthanded, especially in the secondary. I mean, they're shorthanded top to bottom all over on that team. But I'm doing what all these. I'm making sure I'm defending against the run. I'm putting, I'm going to make Mason beat me with his arm on one-on-one situations more than 7 yards down the field, and I'm going after Mason. I'm sending people after him. And I'm doing that all game in hopes that I do it enough, he's going to make the mistake.
Yeah, or you could just play too high and let the run game beat you, because if they don't have Conner back there, which I assume that they won't, the run game's probably not going to beat you. So you can kind of go the other way, too, and just say, try to run the football. You guys get your 2 yards of carry, put yourselves in 3rd and long, and we'll get off on 3rd and 8.
Well, if they ever run up against instances where they have if they have the advantage, with the count, and they run it and they don't win, that's throwing the towel material right there. We can talk about it all we want. I mean, do we expect the running game to improve without a healthy James Conner back yet?
Marginally with Benny Snell back there, but it's not going to be a strength of this team unless they start blocking it a whole lot better.
You don't even have a damn fullback right now.
Right, yeah, you're limited in a lot of ways. So, I mean, yeah, I hear your point about, young quarterback, let him beat you, but why even risk giving up a big play with the receiver making a play, breaking a tackle? I mean, I would, if I was a defensive coordinator playing the Steelers, I'm just saying, we dare you to run the football because you clearly can't. So, we'll let you run the ball and put yourselves in 3rd and forever.
Well, I'm definitely going after him on 2nd and 3rd and longs, too.
Oh, sure, yeah, if it's 3rd and 11, then yeah, you're going to go after a quarterback. But and I understand what you're saying about tempo and trying to pick things up, and I agree with that, but on the road with a young quarterback who has not been playing great, that does give me some pause.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're going to have to you got to find a way to get the ball out in the hands of playmakers out in space in this game.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Are we going to see some wildcat?
Yeah, they might. I mean, they did it with success against the Bengals last time, but just try to jumpstart this team a little bit. I'm not opposed to it. With Benny Snell back, yeah, if he can do it a little bit.
Maybe a little bit. You have to do something to try to get 4 yards or more on first.
Mm-hmm. All right, Dave. With the defense, you 22. Anything that kind of stuck out to you? I can talk about the long play allowed to Odell Beckham Jr. on the first drive of the game. If there's something that stuck out to you in particular.
Yeah, and I mean, you could obviously talk about that anyway, but the chunks, the few chunks that they gave up hurt them
Mm-hmm.
in this one, and how many times did were they almost there with, they had the pressure there on Baker, and he just did a good job of moving around and extended the play. And man, that one touchdown to the tight end in the back of the end zone, that was a hell of a play by him, and it's so hard to defend quarterbacks when you get pressure, but they're able to extend it the way he did on more than once, especially in the first half of that game. Now, they did a better job, I thought, in the second half, although I think that touchdown to the tight end came in the second half there, but that was on a short field, I think.
That was after the last Mayfield.
If I remember there. But, it wasn't obviously you go into that game knowing you can't give up a bunch of points, right? And they gave up the quick one on the deep pass to Beckham. They gave up the one kind of on the slot. I don't know what was a slot corner kind of route there to who was that wide receiver? What was his name?
Hodge.
Yeah, Hodge. And then the blown coverage, that blown coverage on the Landry touchdown is something that you just hate to see. But, I thought they got a lot of that kind of worked out in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you don't want to give them those big chunk plays. They were a driving factor by Cleveland getting those points and scoring their first two touchdowns. But bottom line was 5 minutes left in the game, 6 minutes left in the game. You only allowed 14 points. I mean, that's a pretty good job for your defense. Big picture, no matter how you want to look at the individual problems. But yeah, to go back to the first play, the 43-yard touchdown by Odell Beckham Jr. I don't want to call it miscommunication. I titled it in my post on the article I did yesterday, and it's probably a poor phrasing of it, but I would just call it a coverage breakdown, where on that particular play, Mike Hilton's got to be able to carry the seam, number 2, and he didn't, so that forced Minkah Fitzpatrick to take the number 2 receiver to the middle of the field, which meant Steven Nelson had no help to his inside because he's playing outside leverage, defending anything to the outside. He's looking for inside help. It's supposed to be Minkah, but because Minkah has to basically make up for Hilton's error, then he doesn't have that help, and that creates the big catch there. You see them run that later in the game, actually later in the quarter, and you see it run correctly with Minkah being able to provide more help to the inside. So that was the issue on that play. So you just kind of see what happens when one guy doesn't do his job properly, the whole scheme can fall apart.
Right, and what should that where I'm going with this is was this Minkah trying to cover up for in other words, should he have just stayed middle third?
No, he's got to be able to carry his guy. Otherwise, that guy's running open middle of the field. He's got to.
What I'm saying is, you're covering though for,
sure,
another liability there. So one assignment error kind of creates another one.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I mean, I understand why Minkah did it, because if you
sure, I'm not pinning it. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so I said it's a domino effect. If one guy fails, the whole thing fails.
But what I'm getting at is how, obviously Baker would have likely have seen it anyway, but you probably don't give up as big of an explosive play maybe if you let that slot run free and protect the middle third.
Well, that slot's been running just wide open, and he's probably going to walk into the end zone, I think. So I think you have a big play no matter what you do.
But it is why that's one area where when you see the all 22 versus the TV, you get a better idea of what's happening there.
And that's the value of being able to see the same play twice, because it's hard to watch just one play in a vacuum. It's hard to watch that reception by Odell Beckham Jr. and say, okay, this is what went wrong. Although when I saw it on the TV tape, I saw Hilton by himself, and I knew something was up. But when you see the same thing a couple plays later, the same down distance, same formation, same play call, basically the Browns ran, the same response by Pittsburgh, you see it run the right way. So you're able to do that compare and contrast to, okay, now I've seen it run the right way. I can go back to the play where it went wrong and be able to say what was the error on that play. So I have the article on Steelers Depot if you want to check it out to see that full breakdown.
Yeah, and I think, look, I mean, you're going to have, you're not going to run 100%, error-free, football throughout a game. there. But I think, obviously the big plays, were a big factor in the Browns scoring. And look, I mean, even that first converted third down that we talked about the other day with Barron's back turn and Baker extending the play and hitting Hunt there was a big play. And then boom, next play was or next play or two.
It was the next play, yeah.
Yeah, to Beckham down the middle of the field there was kind of a dagger, and then you're really trying to protect a small area of grass from that point forward there. But I think overall it was an okay performance by the defense. I mean, once again, you hate to see the blown coverage on the Landry touchdown there, but you get back into the later game situation there. You've only given up 14 points, and you're still in it.
Yeah, the problem is this defense, you feel like they have to play perfect and play at elite level every game with the way this offense is. And if they fail to play perfection, which is no big plays, multiple turnovers created, then this offense is not going to be able to put points on the board. And that's the tough spot this defense is in, because it can play well, which I think is fair to evaluate them against Cleveland. They played well, but they didn't play perfect. They didn't play elite defensive football, and their offense couldn't do anything because of it. So, but yeah, it was the big plays. I mean, the first touchdown was created by the 43-yarder by Odell Beckham Jr. The next touchdown was created by the 40-plus yarder by Hodge. Both of those resulted in touchdowns. That's not a coincidence. And
even if you achieve the goal that Keith Butler talks about every week, 16 or 17 points, you're still losing that ball game.
Yeah.
In that instance there, and man, we talk about what's going to happen if this team can't get that turnover.
You saw what happened.
And then you're turning it over 4 other times on the other side. Then you get what happens, or what had happened Thursday night there. So, no, I'm not losing any confidence in the defense. Look, I thought Cameron Hayward had another great game. Boy, how's he playing this season?
Excellent, just consistently great.
Watt and Dupree, if there's any fault of that defense the other night, it's just not being able to finish. And a couple times they had Mason look like they had Baker trapped, and he worked his way out of it. So sometimes that guy's going to win, But I thought overall consistent. I thought they did okay against the run.
Yeah, not too bad. They will be facing a lot of mobile quarterbacks, though. They haven't faced a ton of them lately. Jared Goff, not a mobile quarterback. Brian Hoyer, not a mobile quarterback. Fitzpatrick had some mobility, but an older guy. But they're going to be facing, obviously, Ryan Finley this weekend, who I think Tomlin called Lindley yesterday. Made me laugh, but he's a mobile guy. They're going to be facing Kyler Murray, Josh Allen. Obviously, they're going to face Lamar Jackson again. They're going to face Baker Mayfield again. So really, I think outside of Sam Darnold, the rest of the schedule is going to be facing mobile quarterbacks. So it's going to be a new challenge for this team that makes things that much tougher, both in rushing coverage.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Baker again, you got to, you're going to have to learn from your mistakes the second time around when it comes to him for sure. And obviously Lamar Jackson, we'll see if that game means anything when we get to that point. So it's going to be a challenge for them. But they did a good job, against Lamar the first time around. Once again,
right.
You're talking about an end of the season where that game, it might just be whatever type of game when you get to that point. You hope that it's not. But the Buffalo quarterbacks definitely got some mobility to them, and I think Bill Belichick highlighted that when previewing the last time they played Buffalo. There, he could do a lot of things on the move. You also have the Arizona quarterback as well. So yeah, going to be interesting.
All right, Dave, anything else from the defense, all 22, that you wanted to touch on?
No, I think we got on that. And how about the special teams?
Oh, I was going to go there, and I wish I didn't have to, because it's just been abysmal. They had, to me, and they've had a lot of issues in the kick return game for 3 years now. But I thought the one return after the Browns touchdown, the first touchdown Sunday or Thursday, was the worst block kick return I think I've ever seen. They literally did not make one block on that play. And I run out of ways to describe how bad this unit's been.
Will it get better?
History says no. Survey says no. I don't know. I don't know what changes you make. I mean, there's been a lot of injuries. They only have 4 of the 11 players on the kick return team. For Thursday, only 4 of those guys were on there week 1. So there's a lot of turnovers. You got receivers back there as your up back instead of fullbacks and running backs. Your blockers just aren't as good when receivers are asked to do stuff that fullbacks and running backs are supposed to do. But I just went through that play, and it was just terrible. Here's the 2 crazy stats for you. One is the Steelers since 2017 are averaging 19 yards per kick return. That is dead last in the NFL. That's probably not a surprise. League average is 22.4. Again, the Steelers are at 19. And actually, believe it or not, because I know it was very in vogue to blame Ryan Switzer for all the woes, and he had some problems, sure. But since 2017, of all the players who have returned a kick, Switzer's third on the Steelers with a 19.8 average, only just behind Terrell Watson, and then significantly behind Juju Smith-Schuster, who's aided by the 97-yard touchdown he had in the Week 17 finale against Cleveland. And Switzer's also kind of been hurt by those numbers because he's been out there for those onside recover where you're just trying to get the ball secured and go down. So if you kind of take away some of those issues too that he really has had to deal with that the other guys haven't, he'd have the second best average on this team, only behind Juju. So it's not just a Switzer problem when you look at guys like Johnny Holton with an average of 18 yards. Martavis Bryant had an average of 17 yards. Fitzgerald Toussaint an average of 16 yards. Switzer actually has better numbers than those guys. These are not good numbers, make no mistake, but that tells me that it's not just a Switzer problem. It is a team-wide, systemic, continual issue even before Switzer got here, and that tells you it's a blocking issue, and this team just cannot block to save their life. If you want to have a bad time, check out the breakdown we did this morning, because it is, again, the worst block kick return I've ever seen in my entire life.
If you had your druthers, who would you have back there if it's not Deontay Johnson?
It's probably going to be Kareth White, but I care a lot more about the blockers, because what I'm trying to say is that you can put anybody back there. If they're going to keep blocking it the way that they've blocked it, there's no chance. You're not going to be able to succeed. So I'm taking Cam Kelly off that unit because he's just been terrible all year long. Jalen Samuel should not be on that unit. Hopefully you get a guy like Benny Snell back that can be a better blocker, but you got to make big changes with that blocking group.
And we'll see if they can. I think it's going to be Kareth White back there, at least on what kickoff returns. We'll have to see what happens on punt returns too.
Yeah, if Deontay can't go, it's probably going to be Cam Sutton, because I'm not sure if White even did punt returns, and to get in the door this quickly, my expectation is going to be White on kick returns, and then either Deontay Johnson or Cam Sutton on punts.
What about Quadre? Would you trust him with any of that?
Well, you could, but I don't know, is he going to get called up? I mean, I assume he's not going to be called up at this moment.
Okay. All right.
But by the way, I know you tweeted it out. Juju, we're still wearing that knee brace today in the locker room, so that's not a great sign for him going forward.
And still in concussion protocol, which we kind of expect that. I mean, we don't expect Ola to practice today. We don't expect Connor to practice today. We don't expect Deontay or Juju to practice today. That's 4 of them. Who else?
We'll
see what happens with Artie.
Yeah, and Snell's level. I mean, I assume he's going to participate, hopefully in full. But hopefully those guys in protocol can at least be limited. It tells you they're working through the protocol. We'll see. I don't know, but I'm still not expecting, a Dane and Johnson to be available for Sunday, and Connor's certainly not going to play either.
Right, and not looking good for Juju. But we've been wrong about these predictions before.
Mm-hmm. All right, Dave, anything else in all 22, or do you want to move on here to get ready to kind of close out the show?
Yeah.
Actually, you want to talk about Ben, right? You had something on Ben. You wanted the rabbit hole.
Yeah, but I think maybe first we'll talk about our good friends at Goodies Original Popcorn, and it's Goodies, Goodys, and that's goodieslv.com. Alex, I have a $25 a week popcorn habit. It might be hard to imagine, but I do. I absolutely love Dave's popcorn at Goodies Original Popcorn, and I think our listeners will enjoy it as well. Gluten-free, non-GMO seeds, 100% coconut oil, non-trans fat cheese. I don't know what all that means, but I think it's good for you, and I know the popcorn tastes good as well, too. And boy, you want to talk about, I didn't realize he had so many flavors here. I'm going to read some of these off for you here. Under the savory cheese category, extra butter, cheese, spicy buffalo, and that spicy buffalo, that's obviously one of my favorites. That lit you up, didn't it?
Yeah, that stuff had a real kick to it.
And also jalapeno cheddar. I have not tried that yet, but I know one of our listeners had, and he said he enjoyed that. White cheddar, salt and vinegar. I'm not a huge salt and vinegar person, but he's got that. Dill pickle, loaded baked potato, pizza, chili lime. Under the kettle corn, he's got regular kettle corn and churro. I don't even know what churro. Do you know what churro is?
I know what it is. I don't think I can articulate it well enough.
Okay, he's got also some candy-coated popcorns, and the Fruity Loops one is out of this world. Imagine popcorn. I know you've had that as well. Were you blown away that it tasted exactly like Fruit Loops?
Yeah, I was surprised. It was really good.
And one of the other ones that I get is the caramel every trip. I get a couple of bags of that every trip. I get a couple of bags of that spicy buffalo every trip, and I get a bag of the Fruity Loops as well too. He's also got sour nerds, and he's got kind of a what he calls a goodie mix of cheese and caramel. And local business, small business here in Las Vegas, just getting his internet side of things going, and the response that he's had so far on by advertising on a terrible podcast has been absolutely phenomenal. And look, this is the time of year right now too. You got Thanksgiving coming up. It'd be great to have a couple of bags of popcorn to put out for the family there. And also in Christmas time, popcorn makes a great gift as usual. I know he's got some tins available, and I think he possibly has some Steelers tins coming as well too for the holiday season as well too. So do this. Drop what you're doing right now. Go to Goodies Original Popcorn. You go to the website at Goodies, that's GOODYSLV.com, and check out the selection of popcorns that he has. Put in an order there. Use the promo code Steelers and get free shipping on your order. And once again, we're happy to have Dave and Goodies Original Popcorn as a sponsor of the Terrible Podcast.
All right, Dave, before we get to Ben and some reader emails, just a quick side note. Mason Rudolph spoke apparently impromptu to the media, just read from some prepared notes, just apologizing for his actions in Thursday's game. Said he didn't say anything to Myles Garrett that would escalate the issue, but said he did his conduct didn't rise to the standard set by the NFL. He'll accept any punishment from the league. So we'll have articles on that later on. But Mason Rudolph apologizing for his actions, not excusing what Garrett did, of course, but saying that what he did, he lost his composure, lost his cool. He's got to do a better job of that going forward.
All right, and he's going to get fined. We'll find out how much. I'm sure by the time the next game rolls around here, and we'll keep our fingers crossed until we hear otherwise about Marquise Pouncey. Maybe get that thing lowered from 3 games to 2 games. What's your dressed offensive lineman? I think it's pretty cut and dry. I mean, you're going to end up dressing a core 4 now, or will you?
Morris. Well, no, I mean, I don't.
You're going to have to dress Morris. You're going to have to dress Morris, I'm sure, right? If you're bringing him up.
Your starters will be Villanueva, Foster, Finney, DeCastro, and Filer. Backups, active Banner to be your 6th offensive lineman, and then you got to have Morris because you got to have a backup center. So I think that's how it would go. I think a core 4 would stay down unless they just want to activate all of the linemen.
And I think we'll have to see how look. You're not going to dress your third quarterback in Lynch. You're probably let's assume you're not going to have the 3 guys in concussion protocol right now.
Yep.
Who else is going to be down?
Corner, Lane or Burns, depending on health.
Okay.
You'd have Gentry down.
Yeah, Gentry. I mean, you don't have a 6th defensive lineman to be down.
Right.
So you're going to assume that you're missing the 1 outside linebacker. That'll get Skipper. That should get Skipper a helmet.
Connor. Some Connor's going to be out.
Okay, Connor. So that should have it right there. So maybe a core 4 dresses.
Yeah, that's why I said I don't have the whole layout of it. You're going to have a lot of guys injured that are going to make up your inactive list. But either way, you need to have Patrick Morris active, assuming he gets called up, because no one else. Fowler could play center in an absolute pinch, but you do not want Matt Fowler playing center.
And you hope you don't have to have Patrick Morris play center.
No, but I mean, he's played center before. Fowler's only done it in real emergencies. It'd be a real Chris Hubbard center situation. You don't want that when you're 5-5 and you're fighting for a playoff spot.
All right, what else? When's the last time you watched some 2004 Ben Roethlisberger tape?
Aside from your Twitter timeline, probably in 2004.
Boy, when you go back and look at that, when you look at the stats alone, how many? What did he average? Let's look at how many total attempts he had. He had, where is it here? 295 total attempts, and how many games did he play in?
13 starts, 14 games is what, because he entered for Madison. Yeah,
all right, so
14 games.
take off. Do the math on that. How many attempts he had per game, even though one of them's a half a game.
All right, including the 14th game, 21 per game.
So that's quite low. And he didn't throw.
Mm-hmm.
How many times did he throw for over 300 yards?
I can look.
In those
Probably
games?
wasn't
It was
a whole
once,
lot.
wasn't it?
Yes, once against the Giants, 33-30 victory over. Did Eli Manning play in that game?
Yeah.
Okay, so yep, that was that one time, 316 yards.
How many? What was his? How many times did he throw over? Like, what was his next lowest throwing total, or his second highest throwing total?
231 against the Browns, a 34-23 victory in Week 5.
So it's not like he lit it up in the yardage.
He only threw for over 200 yards 4 times his rookie year.
Yeah, isn't that something when you go back and look at that? Now, though that obviously doesn't paint the whole picture here. Now, one thing that is long story short here, I went back through and I watched every pass attempt yesterday. Every single pass attempt during the regular season yesterday. And I charted the passing distances and directions and everything that goes along with that. And look, I've got a good memory when it comes to that. But even then, some of the things that he did, we talk about. Go back to the conversation we had the other day about what one characteristic, what jumps out. What one thing does Mason Rudolph has he shown so far on tape that he does well? That oh boy, look at that. And really, there hasn't been that, right?
Right. That's my biggest concern, is not seeing that moment where you go, okay, wow, now I understand why the team loved him the way that they did to consider him the heir to Ben.
And this is a Captain Obvious statement here, but boy, when you go back and you watch every single pass attempt that Roethlisberger had for that 2004 season, his ability to extend the play is mind-boggling. It really is, and not only extend the play, but make plays after extending the play. And it's one thing to extend. Now, did he incur a lot of sacks that year? And yeah, I mean, obviously he did, but his ability to extend the play and still make plays down the field was, is one thing that absolutely jumps out on tape. Now, what do you think was Ben Roethlisberger's longest pass distances? Let's do this. How many throws do you think Ben made during his rookie season in which the ball traveled 40 or more yards past the line of scrimmage in the air?
That were completed?
No, just in general.
Just in general?
How many 40? The ball's got to travel at least 40 or more yards in the air past the line of scrimmage.
12.
Now, why would you come up with that number?
I was going to say 10, but I wanted to not choose a round number, so I just said 12. I don't know, obviously.
All right. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
I was going to say that. Oh, my God.
10 times. How many of those 10 throws do you think he completed?
3.
Not bad, little fella. 2.
Oh, all right. I'm always slightly over. Who were they? I think Burris had one.
All right. Plaxico Burress in the game, the week 3. What was week 3? Was that the Miami game? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Miami game was a 1 completion. So his first game his first start right out of shoot, he completes one that distance. And then the other one also to Plaxico for a touchdown in the game against New England. How many interceptions on those 10 throws did he have on those deep passes?
2.
Very good. Are you inside my computer? On the files inside my computer? Have you watched Zoolander?
No, I'd look bad. I didn't look like I would like it.
You have not watched Zoolander's more in your realm.
Really? What's my realm?
I don't know. What year was Zoolander? Man,
not that 10 years ago. How old?
Man, Google that one up.
I mean, I know what 2001. That's that old.
Man, you got to watch that movie.
All right.
You've never seen The Color of Money either with Tom Cruise or Paul Newman, have you?
I've never even heard of it until you just mentioned it.
Oh, what a great flick. Do you know who Warren Zevon is? Werewolves of
No,
London?
I saw you tweeting about him. I had no idea what you were talking about.
Golly, we gotta pick out a week here and get you over to Vegas during the off season and
just to watch movies.
Just to watch some movies here. But anyway, 2 interceptions on those deep. I guess what I'm getting at here is Ben came out of college and was a strong arm quarterback, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you would have thought that he would have had more attempts of more than 40 yards down the field, wouldn't you?
Oh, I think he just didn't throw the ball much at all. 295 attempts, only threw the ball more than 25 times in 3 games that year. So I just think they just didn't ask him to throw the football. So they didn't. That's why the number is low.
One of those interceptions, by the way, was a week 14 Hail Mary interception in week at the end of the first half there. So that was one of them. The other interception was one down the middle of the field, I think, in the game against the Eagles that I think Brian Dawkins got him on there. So definitely interesting when you look, this wasn't a guy chucking it more than 40 yards down the field. He was extending plays. Now, was he throwing it, more than 5 yards down the field? Yeah. But I think if you were to ask, what do you think the answer to some of those questions would be to Joe Yinzer off the street as far as times? Do you think in people's minds that he threw 30 times, 50, 40 times down the field that distance?
I don't know about the particular distance, but I think most people remember Ben as being a guy buoyed by a strong run game and an excellent defense back then, that he didn't have to make the plays that he made, 10 years later. So I don't know what they would have guessed, but I think people kind of knew that Ben was the, manager of the offense back then.
So you're not overly surprised by that. Oh, I'm sorry. I've got one in here that was tipped out of line of scrimmage that I didn't X out. So it's 9 passes of 40 yards or more.
Okay.
Past the line of scrimmage here. Okay. Another thing that stuck out, he was under center a lot, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was 2004.
Fullback on the field quite a bit.
Dan Kreider for the win.
Dan Kreider.
Where'd he go to college?
I want to say a Big Ten school.
No, let me make sure I have this right, because I'm pretty sure I know what it is, but I don't want to get it wrong. Not a Big Ten school, though.
I'm drawing a
Small
blank
school.
then.
Wikipedia. New Hampshire. Yep, I had it right.
Okay. That one escaped me there. You stumped,
I got you.
You stumped the buoy. What else did I want to go with this? Boy, the play action. And here's the thing, that the next time I wanted to try to get some of these, at least get the initial distance charting done and any kind of side notes and direction of the field and all done like that. So next time I go through, I'm going to chart things such as personnel, whether or not, you had a fullback on the field, kind of things, and play action. But he ran a lot of play action, man. It's a wonder now at this stage. And look, I know he's more in the gun now and not under center and all, but even so, why doesn't, and this has been a topic of conversation for the last couple of years, right? Why doesn't he use more play action?
Yeah, no, we've talked about it for a while. I think it's just a lack of mobility, maybe a lack of preference, him taking his eyes off the field. He doesn't like that. I'm not entirely sure what the reasons are. Obviously not having a fullback and not being as run-oriented maybe has a small factor in things. But, yeah, you'd like to see them run more play action. I wonder, what are the play action rates with Rudolph compared to Ben? I'm sure they're higher a little bit, but I wonder how much higher they are.
Yeah, well, that would be a nice comparison to have. And I don't have those, of course, at the fingertip right now. But, man, just you knew in your head how much he extended the play. At least you think that you know. But you go back through all those plays. It is quite astonishing, how often he would extend the play. And you want to talk about characteristics and all. How many quarterbacks in today's NFL right now can you name that you would qualify as quarterbacks that not only extend the play but do a good job at it?
Well, good job's tougher for me to say, but there are a lot more mobile quarterbacks today than there were in 2004. So you could probably name, I would say, at least 10 quarterbacks that are capable of that.
How would you describe Tom Brady's play?
I feel like I should be in a chair right now, getting billed by the hour for
No,
this.
I mean, I think you know where I'm kind of
Well,
going.
not entirely actually, but I mean, yeah, Brady's been a pocket guy. His play's taken a step back. He's even admitted it and kind of said, we're going to be our defense is our strength. We just got to not make mistakes as an offense. But to me, he's got great mobility in the sense of great mobility within the pocket, and that can be just as valuable, if not more so, of a skill than mobility outside the pocket. His ability to navigate the muddy waters and be able to find a clean pocket and get the ball away when he needs to has made him such a successful quarterback.
Name me a quarterback or two that's more in line of not a play extender, but still manages to get the job done.
That's active today?
Yeah, that's active.
Drew Brees.
He has a little bit of
he's still, like 37, isn't he?
Yeah, but he still does a decent job kind of extending the play, doesn't he?
Oh, sure. Even Brady has before, just running away from stuff. But he's not Russell Wilson. He is not. Lamar Jackson. He is not. I mean, I don't know if you're looking for literal statues. I don't even know who to even qualify. But Brees is about as much of a statue as I think as it gets. So him and Brady to me are kind of the pinnacle of those types of quarterbacks.
I mean, would you throw Rivers into that kind of, he extends the play a lot less than maybe.
Yeah, he's not playing particularly well though. So I mean, I didn't want to.
Sure.
He's obviously struggling, and people are wondering if that's the end of his career, especially coming off what he did against Oakland, or who'd they play? The
Chiefs.
Kansas City. I'm saying Oakland, Kansas City. Anyway, yeah.
Boy,
so,
has he regressed, or is it?
Feels like it. Feels like that arm's giving up on him.
And he lost. He doesn't look like he's got. He's always had that kind of weird throwing motion anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot less kind of pop on it. Than he used to, making a lot more intercept. He probably should have at least 6 or 7 more interceptions than what he's got. Right now here. All right, so what kind of where I'm going with this, and I went back and watched the last 3 games of Mason Rudolph's throws and all like that too. Where does Mason have to? I mean, he's not going to be extend the play guy.
Yeah, we all know that. We knew that coming out. I mean, none of that's ever been surprising. You can't expect that from him.
So where is he going to have to start? Where is his elements of wow going to have to come from?
From being able to navigate within the pocket, show great mobility within it, make decisive plays, and show just great accuracy and ball placement on, medium to deep throws. I thought his placement and his accuracy on the deep ball in camp was one of his most attractive qualities. I haven't quite seen that. It's been there in moments. So I think for him, just general accuracy is going to be the key.
So that's what we're looking for right now with him in these final 6 games.
Yep, absolutely.
And we should coming out of what was could arguably be called one of his his best game against the Rams, and then into or not arguably his worst game of his young career, and then now back on the long week against a Bengals team that's got some issues. We should start seeing in these final 6 games that arrow start going in a positive direction here.
I sure hope so. But again, I want to see some wild plays. I want to see some plays to make you go, okay, I understand why this team was so high on him, because there's been a couple of those, but not nearly enough so far.
But he's not going to give you that. Now, can he do a better job of avoiding pressure and maybe getting himself out of a pocket? Better than what he's done. Yeah. But he's not going to be that guy that's going to give you the 5 to 7 plays that Roethlisberger would give you, especially when he was much younger and in his prime type things. So that goes back to kind of our early discussion in the show, that he's got to know where he thinks he wants to go with that ball and what might be. He's got to make the quicker decisions here, and his ball placement's really got to come around.
He's got to stop sliding under pressure. He's creating too much pressure for himself, and that to me is a bigger concern in the first step, as opposed to avoiding pressure or making plays outside the pocket. He's got to stop putting himself in high pressure situations.
Whether or not he can, we'll see. But that's what we're looking for in the final 6 games for him.
Yep. All right, Dave. Anything else from that conversation? Do you want to move on to some reader emails to close out the show?
Yeah, I guess we're going to some reader emails here. Let's see here. Muthana Al-Salani writes in, our running game is obviously miserable. There are a lot of factors at play, not much of a passing game to keep teams from loading the box, no Rosie Nix, no experience. Oh, by the way, that running game they had in 2004 was something on top of it there. From loading the box, no Rosie Nix, no experienced quarterback that will audible in and out of favorable, unfavorable running situations, etc. Given our offensive line's track record, I refuse to believe they all collectively started to suck. It's clearly a running back issue. They are below the line in every way. It reminds me of something Dave Wannstedt once said. I didn't block any differently in 1975 than I did in 1976. Dorsett was the difference. I know the running back position has become devalued in today's NFL, but high caliber running backs do make a difference, and we could really use one right now. I thought Connor was sufficient when he had been in AB, but without those two, the drop off between an elite back like Bell and a good back like Connor becomes more apparent. I think the Steelers will almost certainly spend an early pick this offseason on a running back given Connor's status, and hopefully, as you both discussed the other day, they aren't married to a prototype running back.
No, I understand. The runners have to do a better job, but when you have that kind of failure across the board, the numbers are as terrible as they are, it's hard to point to just one unit. I talked about how the O-line was struggling to climb to the second level and cover up these linebackers. I mean, that's not a running back issue. That's an offensive line issue. So, I mean, there's issues for everything. There's play call issues. There's schematic stuff. There's blocking things. There's obviously running back problems. There's just the issues of having a young quarterback and teams being able to stack the box in general. So all that gets taken into account. You can't call it just one issue and blame everything for that. And I'm not interested in trying to give percentages and how much is this unit to blame. I just know they've all been problems. But the video I'm going to do for tomorrow, I think, is going to illustrate some of the issues with the O-line not getting the second level.
Alex, if the season ended right today, what would you do with James Conner after the season?
Nothing. I wouldn't extend him. He'd be back next year, obviously, but it's hard to dole out that long-term deal with the health issues he's had, unfortunately.
I would agree. He's got a lot that he's got to get done, I think, in these. Well, I mean, we don't expect him to play in this next game. I will be shocked if he plays in the game against Cleveland as well, too. So, I mean, that potentially leaves 4 games for him to prove that he can be that guy, right?
Yeah, and again, I love the skill set. I love the talent. I think he's a complete back. But obviously, when there's those health concerns and durability concerns, it's hard to give a guy a long-term deal, especially in an offseason where you're going to have 5 or 6 other guys to talk about doing long-term deals with, either guys that are already under contract or guys you might want to try to retain, like a Bud Dupree or Javon Hargrave. So Connor's not going to be high on my list.
Obviously we've talked in the past about him, and I think he's up for the proven performance escalator, so he's going to get a bump in pay that way. But I'm with you. I don't think you can extend him after this season. I think you've got to make him play out that final year of the contract. Of course, if he does, and he becomes that guy, then it's going to cost you the tag to keep him, more than likely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I wonder if we'd get any pushback from the listeners on that. He's not going to be a guy that's going to settle for a $4 million a year deal, is he? And even then, is that overpaying him right now?
I don't think it's overpaying him, but I don't think he's going to settle for that.
All right, let's go on to Brad Prentice here. Love the podcast and all the work you guys put into it are much appreciated. Mason had a 4-pick game. So did Phillip Rivers last week. Been through 5 a few years ago back against the Jags. Every quarterback has a game like that. Let's see how he responds. Beyond that, all these guys reaching their decision on Mason so early are not paying a lot of attention. Rudolph looks much better than Jacoby Brissett did the year he filled in for Andrew Andrew Luck. A lot of quarterbacks, heck, most take several years to develop. Anybody else around here, remember how many times Bradshaw was benched? Yeah, I think it's a little hard to go all the way back to 70-something in that. But, I mean, I get you drift there, Brad. Man, this calling for a quarterback's head when he's young and still developing is ridiculous and has ruined a lot of careers. Yeah, we could have possibly picked up a first-round quarterback this year and everyone would be calling for his head when he struggles. That kind of thinking is for the Redskins fan. Brad, look, this has been kind of where Alec, or at least where I've been this all season. I'm not going to judge the guy off of one game. I'm not going to come out and say, oh, looky there, the game that he had against the Rams, which, while it was his best game, it's not something that you're mailing in that tape for AFC Player of the Week. Conversely, it was an awful game on a short week with surrounded by limited talent and no running game against the Browns. I think a lot of this needs to be put in context. I think Alex and I have gone over up until this point with him what he needs to work on, and the limited few things that he's done well and the things that we're kind of looking for in the final six. And let's let these final 6 games play out, and then we'll say what we think he may or may not be, and whether or not we think he can improve in certain areas.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, we're not calling for Duck Hodges over here. I understand that's the reaction from a lot of the fan base. That's how it is with quarterback play in general. Fans are quick to praise and certainly quick to criticize, and no one loves the backup quarterback more than an NFL fan base. When Ben was struggling, through 6 quarters, I was getting comments, should you try Mason, or what if Rudolph plays well, and if Ben's able to come back, do you even start Ben? And so, I mean, that's just stuff that naturally happens. But I think the response from this game against the Bengals will be critical in Rudolph, and seeing how he bounces back from an objectively terrible performance. And like Dave said, we'll go back after the regular season ends and see how the season looks in totality and go from there.
And look, you would like to start seeing some improvement in these final 6 games.
Yeah, you need to.
He has played a little less than 500 snaps, right? I mean, that's a half a season now technically that he has under his belt. So he's kind of technically, if you will, moving into the second half of his season.
Yeah, it's not a matter of you would like to see improvement. You need to see improvement. He's got to play better.
Bryce writes in, hey guys, this is Bryce. Some thoughts, questions for you. One, lose to the Bengals and the season is effectively over. This is definitely another one of those must-win games. Agree or disagree? You can make arguments that it's not a must-win game, but it's hard. It's hard to envision if they lose to a team such as the Bengals this week. It's hard to imagine them running the table after that. So, yeah, in essence, this is a must-win game. This is a game they better win. Let's put it to you that way. You agree, Alex?
Yes, I do.
Number 2, I agree with Tomlin that if I had to pick the biggest strength of this offense right now, it would be the offensive line and those 2 tight ends. I believe any start of developing a true offensive identity for this year must start with those parts of the offense and then build out from there. So from your perspective, what is the best way to build an offense around 2 tight ends running and passing?
Well, I mean, first of all, I don't think they've played that well this year. So, I mean, I don't know what Tomlin's really saying from that. But can you just establish a ground game? Can you be more physical up front? Get yourself a run game that will put yourself in some more manageable third down situations, even though they've struggled in those situations this year. Be able to pass protect better. I mean, it's not anything mystical, but I don't know about the tight ends because I don't think either of those guys have been particularly impressive.
Yeah, Vinette's definitely not in a running game.
I think McDonald's a blocker has really, really struggled this year.
And he's been better than that. His first year, he was much better than that.
Yeah, and obviously as a receiver, he's not offering a whole lot. Now, some of that's not his fault because the offense as a whole has taken a step back. But even when he catches the ball, he's not making a lot of plays.
And then there was the time last year, wondering, well, why didn't they use McDonald more in 2 tight end sets more? When running the football, and I mean they're using both those guys now more, and it's just both of them just have not been great.
What's his snap count? What's the percentage of snaps he's playing this year? McDonald. I know they try to manage it, and I'm sure it's come down a little bit since Vinette's gotten acclimated to the system. But I'm just because they were playing McDonald at a high level of snaps early in the year. He's at 70%. That's not that bad. But I
predicted it be high.
Yeah. Well, I didn't see all the injuries and everything, the chaos that's kind of happened behind it. I mean, I think I was at 60, 65%. He's at 70 right now. It might come down a little bit, but my thought was maybe he's playing a lot more than he's used to. He's not used to playing this high volume of snaps, but 70% is not absurdly high.
What are you doing with him right now? I mean, he's got a fairly manageable number, I guess. I mean, you don't have you don't have the net signed right now. Past next season. I mean, you almost got by default going to be keeping McDonald, right? I mean, you got to draft one, I hope.
Yeah, you're going to keep McDonald. I mean, do you draft one though for sure? If you re-sign Fournette, and I hope that you do, otherwise you gave a fifth round pick for not a lot. You have McDonald, and I assume they'll still like Gentry. They may not draft a tight end, especially with only having limited draft picks next year and a lot of needs.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I'm just saying, if that's a scenario, who's getting the bump if you bring Fournette back?
They have to re-sign Fournette first.
No, I'm saying, I'm under the pretense that they do re-sign Nick Fournette. I hope that they do. But I guess in the sense of otherwise that fifth round pick was kind of a waste.
What's Fournette's value right now? I mean, you got some of those guys. Some of those. You get the Jesse James and the who was the
Nick Boyle.
Yeah, Nick Boyles. I mean, those guys are getting $6 million. I mean, Fournette's not getting that, right?
I wouldn't think so. He may cost $2 or $3 million though.
All right, number 3.
How about Jesse James in Detroit? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but he's doing nothing in Detroit. What a mistake that was for the Lions.
That might be a one and done there.
Yeah, he's playing behind Logan Thomas right now. I don't know how well he's playing, but they're clearly not involving him in their game plan.
All right, number 3, as of right now, who would you say is going to have the biggest impact on the team over the next 3 weeks and why? And he gives us some selections here. Kozora, Kane, White Jr., or Tevin Jones? I know which way I'm going.
I don't know. I mean, how much are those guys even going to play? I'll say White Jr. because he's probably guaranteed to touch the football. I assume he's going to be your starting kick returner. And with that play, if he can they can just block it up even just decently one time. Maybe you can show off that 4.36 speed. So you're probably going Kane. I'll just go with White.
Yeah, I'm going to go Kane. Has the biggest potential. I'm not saying that he will have the biggest impact, but I think he has I think he might present the opportunity to have the biggest impact if he can make a couple of them plays down the field.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Thanks for that email, Bryce. Andrew False writes in, hey, Dave and Alex, just read that Kozora made it back to and look, everybody, the Kozora bandwagon, he's got the opportunity, I guess, to be what? We'll see what happens with Chickalo. Has the opportunity at worst to be the number 4, but you're probably not going to, barring injury, not see him on the field much of any in these final 6 games. I guess we'll put the Ola Adeni snap barrier on him, which was, what was that last year in the final whatever games he was on the field for? What did he get, 7, 11 snaps? Ola?
Yeah, it was like 9 snaps.
Okay. He writes in, just read that Kozora made it back to Pittsburgh. What would it take for one of you to buy me his jersey? You probably give me the money to buy you his jersey. No, joking aside, if you could own an obscure Steelers jersey, who would it be and why? I personally would rock a Dan Kreider. How about he's got a Dan Kreider there? I know, and I think Alex already owns one. It'd be Chidi Iwanu.
What, Dave? Don't get his name wrong. Oh, my God. You've committed the gravest sin. Chidi Iwoma, I do own one. If I had to get another one, though, because Chidi's my favorite player in Steelers history, favorite NFL player of all time. Second favorite, though, is Big Daddy Lipscomb. So I'd love to get a Big Daddy Lipscomb jersey number. What number did he wear? 75. No, did he wear 75 before Joe Green? All right, now I'm mad at myself, but I would get a Big Daddy Lipscomb jersey.
Boy, I'm at a loss.
You don't remember Big Daddy Lipscomb?
No, I'm at a loss for what my obscure jersey would be.
76. Why am I saying 76 Big Daddy Lipscomb more? Would be my jersey.
Man, I'm trying. I'm kind of at a loss at who I would be. Kind of be that obscure. I don't know. How about a Will Warford?
Oh, I like it. Deep cut.
There. So that would be just off the kind of top of my head there. Let's see here. Christopher Jones writes in, Juju evaluation. As you can see, too, no Bengals beat writer on today either. We couldn't get one scheduled in enough time there, so we'll try to reach back out to Paul Daner again and have him for the Friday show to preview the game against the Bengals here. When was from Christopher Jones? When was the last season the Steelers didn't have one receiver? Teams didn't have to worry about ripping off a 75-yard touchdown on 1st and 10 from their own 25 if they overcommitted to the run. If you don't have a Santonio, Mike Wallace, Antonio Brown, and Martavis Bryant type of guy jogging on the field next year, this offense will not be explosive enough to compete for a championship. What does this say about Juju's value when the reason you're most likely missing the playoffs is because you couldn't adequately replace AB's ability to open the field for the running game and secondary wide receiver? Look, this goes way beyond Juju here.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Juju's capable of that, but when he's kind of the only guy that you're really worried about, you double him, you take him away, and you force those other guys to make plays. But again, we've seen flashes from James Washington, we've seen flashes from Deontay Johnson. I don't want to pretend that we haven't. So, and those second-year guys making a jump, especially Johnson in particular, can make a big jump next year. So, I think from what I've seen so far, I'm comfortable with rolling with those three guys for 2020, provided they continue to progress the way that they have. And then maybe adding another piece later in the draft or a smaller free agency move. So I don't know if you have to make a radical shift there. You just have to let these guys get reps and progress.
You're drafting a wide receiver next year, though, right?
Probably. It wouldn't come super early. It would be a day 3 kind of thing. Again, you have to look at the whole landscape of it. But are you happy with the way Deontay Johnson has progressed his rookie year, Dave?
So far, yeah. I mean, I'd like to see him with the full off season, one NFL season under his belt, and then that second off season. You would obviously expect a huge jump then, right?
Sure.
But I mean, look, he's exhibited a lot of the things that we saw in the Toledo tape.
Mm-hmm. What about James Washington? Are you happy? You're probably less happy than Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, He hasn't made the impact that I thought maybe he could potentially make.
Mm-hmm. But I think we recognize that a lot of that isn't necessarily his fault with the way the offense has been schemed, especially this season.
I think he's going to stick around. He's obviously probably going to be on this team next year and all, but I think he's going to have to become a lot more well-rounded guy.
Yeah, but I've been happy with...
He's not going to take the top off a lot of coverages. He's just going to have to become a lot more well-rounded to help the offense.
Yeah, that's fair. But I've been happy with his play in recent weeks, and if that progression continues, and let's assume that it does the rest of the way, then I think you're in a decent place with a young receiver core going into next year, where you don't have to add a high free agent investment or a high draft pick into the mix. You'll add somebody, but not necessarily a first round pick. Not a first round pick, but a second round pick into it.
Well, like I stated the other day, I'm looking for that. That 6'2", 6'3" guy that can got that old crap speed. That can get down the field and look, those guys normally have where you get them in the 3rd and 4th rounds usually have a set of issues that come along with them,
right.
Whether it be ball, not high pointing in enough or drops or maybe character, but that's what I'm looking at, that 3rd or 4th wide receiver, the guy that runs the 4-3-8, 4-3-6. That's what I'm looking for right now, because I think Juju can be your big slot or play outside, obviously, and 2 wide. You can move him around, play him pretty much everywhere. You've got your X and Deontay. You got a guy that hopefully becomes a little bit more well-rounded in James Washington. I think if you go out and get a guy that can really threaten teams deep, I think that's what you need.
I agree.
Jeff Berg writes in, hey, y'all, what a year so far. To the question, what makes a franchise quarterback? I would say a franchise quarterback is a quarterback who can put the team on their back when the team needs it, and in doing so wins games, not just once or twice a season, but season after season. Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, and Ben Roethlisberger are quarterbacks who have displayed this quality. Let's whoop the Bengals this weekend here. You want a couple other games games, man. Go watch those games against the Giants and the Cowboys, man. Another thing, you want to see Mason be able to put together a drive where we go, okay, that was a heck of a drive, you know? And especially, hopefully you don't have to have many of them at the end of the game where you need to go down and maybe get a field goal or a touchdown. But that's one thing Ben Roethlisberger did, later on in those games, or really the Cowboys game, I think was what was that, week 6? And I think the Giants game was much later. But those are instances not only with his ability to extend plays, but he was able to put together drives, even though there were some runs in there. The explosive play element, man, you just cannot underscore a quarterback's ability to produce an explosive play.
Yep, it's critical.
All right, let's see if we got any more here. What are we doing on time here, Alex?
Hour and 40 minutes, I think.
All right, we'll start writing it down here. Jeff Jordani writes in, hello, Dave and Alex. I'm a new listener all the way from Brazil. A couple of weeks ago, I was looking for some podcast about the Steelers in English. I found you guys, and it's become one of my favorite shows already. Great. It's Gene Jordani.
I'm glad he's looking for a podcast in English because our Spanish version of this podcast is a lot worse.
Some say I don't deliver in English. Now my question is, with this wide receivers group so banged up, is there any reason for us to hope that our tight ends are going to be more involved in this offense against the Bengals? What would that be a good alternative to get the offense going? And overall, how do you think both McDonald and Vidette have been playing this season? I think we kind of already covered that. Thanks for the great coverage on the Steelers, and keep up the good work. You would hope with such potentially inexperienced wide receivers that you're going to have this week, that maybe you can get those tight ends involved a little bit more.
Yeah, especially McDonald. Throw a tight end screen. They threw 1 million tight end screens to McDonald last year. I don't know if they've thrown one this year to him. But for me, it's always been about red zone play with McDonald, getting him involved down there. It's been hit and miss. The Seattle game, he had 2 touchdowns, had another one against, who was that? Rams? No, who did he catch that touchdown against? The Colts game where he had a touchdown. But I want to see McDonald get involved in the red zone. That's got to be where he's got to make his money.
Obviously, opposing defenses dictate it and all. You don't just do it just to do it. But and I know a lot of people don't like those wide receiver screens, but if you get the a right look, unfortunately you're not going to have Deontay Johnson. It doesn't sound like it'd be even better if you had him in here, but maybe you try to get a couple of wide receiver screens running this one as well too. If you get the right look and can potentially get a situation where you get a 3-on-2 on the outside or something.
Mm-hmm.
Get a playmaker, the football out in space that way. I mean, we haven't seen. Can you count on one hand how many wide receiver screens we've seen in the last, 4, 5, 6 games?
Yeah, I'm not sure the number, but it's been a lot less.
All right, CM writes in, number 72. Okay, he sent in a picture. What did you think about Zach Banner posing as that, having that reporting as eligible gear?
His pajamas, that was funny. He's a character, all right.
He is. He's fitting in well. Caleb Winterburn writes in, hey guys, we have receivers that can't catch and running backs that can't run. How much of this do you think is because the Steelers losing Drake and Saxon?
Well, obviously the loss of Coach Drake was difficult, and I'm sure it still is for the team in that locker room. How much can you attribute that to the issues? I mean, that's impossible to say. I'm sure it has some effect. I think it's just a lot of young guys. You have a pretty young receiver room, a lot of guys that are playing their first snaps in a long time. In the case of Johnny Holton, their first snaps ever in the NFL. In the case of, say, Tevin Jones. So I think it's just the perils of a young room and guys that haven't been in these spots before with a quarterback that hasn't been in this spot before. It's just a combination of all those things. So that's what I would look towards more than I would look towards the unfortunate deaths of Darryl Drake and James Saxon, Teddy Faulkner. It's hard to say. I'm not sure. To try to judge those positional coaches is very difficult, especially in the first year like this. Is there an impact? Maybe. I know the players really like Coach Sax, and they were disappointed to see him get let go. But it's hard to say how much of a factor that is.
Man, you got so many different damn moving parts on, outside
Mm-hmm.
of all. Thank God, knock on wood, offensive line stayed healthy for the most part. Obviously lost Foster for a couple games to concussion, and now look, we'll see. Are you worried? How much are you worried about Finney at center?
I mean, he's played well, well enough there before. It's a downgrade. Just making sure those exchanges and those snaps are pretty clean, because that's going to be something you're just getting adjusted to Pouncey. Now you're adjusting to Finney, and hopefully that doesn't create an issue.
Boy, he's got a real chance here to increase his market value, doesn't he? Especially if that 3-game suspension sticks for Pouncey.
Yeah, absolutely. To see him against Geno Atkins, that's going to be a big matchup for him.
That guy tends to have been David DeCastro's kryptonite too.
Now Atkins has come down a little bit. He's not the guy that he was 5 years ago, but he's still going to be a challenge.
Shrikant writes in, "Hi guys, huge fan of all your work. Just wanted to say, Lost in a Myles Garrett is a good person. What do you think about all this Myles Garrett positive stuff on the Twitter machine, Alex?
Yeah, it's cute. It's not going to change anything. You're not going to be able to try to rehabilitate his image in a week for this incident. Maybe he is a good guy, but it doesn't change the circumstances of what happened on the field Thursday night.
I saw Myles Garrett at Trader Vic's drinking a pina colada. His hair was perfect. You got to get in some old Warren Zevon, Alex.
Still don't know who that is.
Yeah, you do. Ooh, Werewolves London.
Nope, not helping.
That don't help. You don't know.
No.
No.
Nothing.
God, oh Lord have mercy. There's people throwing their phones right now.
Less than you think. It might be one guy. Probably one guy.
All right. If you threw your phone or came close to throwing your phone, that Alex does not know who Warren Zevon and Werewolves of London is, let me know. theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. Anyway, back to the question. Just want to say, Lost in the Myles Garrett is a good person. Dialogue is the fact that he broke Trevor Simeon's leg on an egregious late hit and punched Delaney Walker in the face. Anyone want to talk about that? In my mind, that's why he got the suspension. Cumulative and the incident. No matter how many homeless people of Cleveland insist he hangs out with there. One last one. Sean Schaefer. Hey, Dave and Alex, I listen to every episode. Thanks for all you guys do. It's the first time emailing you guys. Question: if I'm correct, the Steelers have an option on the next 2 years of Vance McDonald's contract at $6 million per year with his injury history. Would you agree that we should decline the option on his contract and use that money to re-sign Bud Dupree? We could then use our second-round pick next year to add a young receiving tight end to the team with young wide receiver we have in Schuster, Washington, and Johnson. Then add a tall, deep threat who can actually catch and another running back with our fourth rounders and get this offense back on track. Where's Waynesboro, PA at, Alex?
I think it's kind of close to me. My PA geography is atrocious, as you can probably tell. Waynesboro College, I'm trying to think where that's at. With McDonald, I don't know. I mean, I understand the point. Well, let's see how the rest of the season plays out. I would probably not do that. You have some continuity at tight end. I know Ben's always going to return. That's going to make Vance, going to make the whole offense look better. And point taken about drafting a tight end, but man, rookie tight ends just don't produce for you. They don't do that across the board. It's such a transition from college to the NFL that it would take another year to really depend on that tight end to do anything for your offense.
Yeah, and about the option with him, next year with Vance McDonald. I mean, you got a what is it? A per game roster bonus and a workout bonus of $150,000 due. And I'm assuming it's been a while since I've looked at. Let's see if McDonald's on the roster on April 1st or of 2009. Let's see, injury fully guaranteed. I'm trying to find out where the 2020 comes in there and the date on that. I'm going to have to look at as far as the dates go on that. So it's not like I'm assuming that that base salary of $5.5 million becomes fully guaranteed at some point, but I'm gonna have to go back and look at my original notes on his contract there. But look, you're gonna have to sign Vinette. It is just hard to imagine, right? Them not keeping McDonald around.
Yeah, maybe 2 years from now it's a different conversation, but I expect him back in uniform for next year.
All right, I lied to you, Terry Witherall. Quick question: how does Randy stay on as OC? At the end of the season, no, I think we already hit on this. The fact that we expect Randy to still stick regardless of what happens.
Yeah, Phoenix is going to be back as OC next year.
All right, what else you got, Alex?
That's it. We'll be back Friday. Hopefully have a beat writer on, do our predictions, and go from there. Hope for a win.
All right. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. You can follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and you want to donate to the cause, please go to SteelersDepot.com. Hit the PayPal button, upper navigational bar. If you'd like an ad-free version of SteelersDepot.com, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button, upright navigational bar. For $25 for 1 calendar year, you can have an ad-free version of SteelersDepot.com. And a lot of people still take us up on that. I think we get 1 or 2 of those sign-ups a week there. A lot of people rave about it once they get it as well, too. In the meantime, until Friday, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.